the forgotten monsters of the mobile phone village. In the constant flow of technology, there are products that transcend the boundaries of time and become symbols. A testament to the evolution and influence of an era. Mobile phones, from a rudimentary communication device, have undergone powerful revolutions, completely transforming the way people connect and interact. In that history of development, there are phone models that are not simply tools, but have become legendary names that when mentioned, we not only remember a product, but also an exciting era of technology. Classic designs like the Nokia 3310 with its divine durability, the Motorola Razr with its revolutionary slim folding design, or the first iPhone that symbolized the birth of the smartphone era, are all indelible marks. Each of these legendary phone models not only marked a turning point in technology but also created profound changes in the way we live and work. Over time, they have become symbols of progress, of a passion for endless innovation. And most importantly, they tell us stories about a world that is moving towards the future, but never forgetting the legacies left by the past. The first mobile phone to appear in movies has an sky-high price. The first cell phone was invented by Motorola engineer Martin Cooper in 1973. Called the Motorola Dynatac 8000X, the device weighed 2.5 pounds and was 9 inches long. Marty Cooper is known as the father of the cell phone because he invented the first handheld cell phone in 1973. Led the team that developed the Dynatac 8000X, Dynamic Adaptive Total Area Coverage, and then successfully brought it to market in 1983. The Dynatac 8000X was the first real cell phone and it revolutionized the way people communicate today. Before the Dynatac 8000X was invented, cell phones were large, bulky, and only available to consumers who communicated via car phones. At 10 inches long and weighing 2.5 pounds, mostly due to its massive battery, the Dynatac 8000X was 4 to 5 times heavier than a modern cell phone. It was featured in the 1987 movie Wall Street, when the first commercial cell phone was released in 1983. The price was a whopping $3.995, or nearly $12.600 in today's dollars. The minimum wage in the US was $3.35 an hour in 1984, which meant that the average worker would have to work more than 1.192 hours just to buy the phone. In addition, the first cell phone was very expensive when it was released in the US in 1983. 1984. This created the initial association of status and greed for the colloquial brick phone. It was fitting, then, that the company's infamous villain Gordon Gekko showed off a Motorola Dynatac 8000X on the beach in an early morning phone call, declaring, "Money never sleeps, man." Although it was a commercial success, it was quickly replaced by smaller, more affordable cell phones. Despite its relatively short lifespan, the Motorola Dynatac 8000X played a major role in the development of mobile technology. It paved the way for the smaller, more affordable cell phones we use today, and it changed the way we communicate forever. Nokia 9000 Communicator, 1996, shaping the future of mobile technology. This was one of those groundbreaking devices that wasn't called a smartphone at the time, instead being described as a palm-top PC. However, it wasn't exactly a pocket PC either, as the Nokia 9000 was huge, weighing in at nearly 400 grams. For its time, it was definitely a PC, running a DOS-based operating system and powered by an Intel 386 chip. This CPU was first introduced in 1985 and brought the x86 architecture into the 32-bit era, even though it was over a decade old by the time the communicator arrived. It was still pretty impressive to see it running at 24 MHz in a handheld device. However, the Nokia 9000 communicator software did not use 32-bit. Pen Geos 3.0 was based on 16-bit Geos, an early operating system with a graphical interface that tried its best to look like Windows 95 when running on a computer. The phone has a black and white LCD screen with a resolution of 640 by 200 pixels and a QWERTY keyboard on the inside. On the outside is a small screen and AT9 keyboard, which is the phone part of the device. The earpiece and receiver are on the back, so you need to flip it over to make calls, which means the screen and keyboard will face outwards. which looks quite weird. Interestingly, the two halves of the device are quite separate from each other. You can power the phone part on and off without affecting the PC half. However, they still have a connection, allowing you to type SMS or edit contact information using the keyboard. You can also sync your contacts and calendar with the computer part. This was done in a complicated way. There is also an infrared port, which can be used for syncing or printing documents wirelessly. Remember, this was before Bluetooth was available on phones, let alone Wi-Fi, but you didn't need a computer to do many of your everyday tasks, which was the focus of the Nokia 9000. You could easily reply to emails you received while away from the office. You could even receive faxes, which were still very popular in businesses at the time. Internet and faxes are transmitted over a very slow 9.600 bits per second CSD connection. Receiving a page takes over 40 seconds. You can also surf the primitive internet using the pre-installed browser, which is also very slow. Unfortunately, GeoWrite, GEOS's document editor, is not available on Communicator. There's just a simple note-taking app. That's probably fine. The QWERTY keyboard certainly makes text entry easier than the T9 phone keypads of the time. Nokia 3310, 2000. Launched on September 1, 2000, the Nokia 3310 is a part of many people's memories. This model is associated with the legendary Snake game and its outstanding durability, and quickly became one of the most successful phones of all time with sales of 126 million units. Taking advantage of the 3210, a year later, Nokia released the 3310, which was more compact, had a smaller and lighter frame, felt solid and comfortable in the hand, had easy-to-use buttons, and had many back cover options. Moreover, it was also extremely durable, able to survive many harsh tests. The Nokia 3310 measures 113 by 48 by 22 mm for a solid feel. And the 84 by 48 pixel monochrome screen is enough to play some simple games. The top edge of the device is the power button. The front navigation system only has two-way keys, a select button, and a back button, and a character delete button next to the T9 numeric keypad, serving those who frequently text. The Nokia 3310 allows texting up to 459 characters, 3 times the standard character limit of a standard SMS message. Messages are sent as 3 separate messages, but they will be merged into one if the recipient is also using the Nokia 3310. The device also integrates Friends Talk, a group chat software based on the SMS messaging standard. The device is equipped with a 900 mAh battery that can last for a week on a single charge. The device is also equipped with many technologies, such as dual-band 900 1800ths of a megahertz support for operation on any mobile network, 250 contact phone book, 35 pre-installed ringtones, texting with T9 predictive keyboard, stopwatch, timer, calculator and currency converter. The durability of the Nokia 3310 also helped it become part of the emoji family. In Finland, the emoji was called unbreakable, which conveyed the same message of resilience as the phone. The Nokia 3310 was priced at $160, which was quite expensive compared to today's low-cost smartphones. However, that was enough to make the Nokia 3310 a hit. The company sold 126 million Nokia 3310s worldwide, 20 times more than the first-generation iPhone. It didn't surpass the success of the 3210, which sold 160 million, but it was a more influential phone overall thanks to its messaging tools. And of course, there were the memes that we still enjoy today. The Nokia 3310 was so beloved that in 2017, Nokia refreshed the phone. Motorola Razr V3, 2004, icon of the times and the revolution of folding phone design. Today, we call cell phones from the 2000s dumb phones. But before the smartphone boom in 2007, they were more accurately called feature phones or dedicated phones. In addition to making calls and sending text messages, phones from that era had a number of features such as taking pictures, playing simple Java-based games, and accessing websites designed for GPRS technology. Most older cell phones have one problem: they're thick and ugly. The Motorola Razr V3, on the other hand, is a supermodel in the world of slim and gorgeous phones. Optimized design for convenient portability. A phone that fits in every pocket, makes every wallet tremble. 2 decades ago, jeans pockets were not the ideal place to keep a phone because of the chance of accidentally dialing numbers. Unlike today's capacitive touchscreens, which can only be activated by conductive materials, physical buttons can be activated by any type of pressure. These accidental presses would often dial numbers from a speed dial or recent calls list. The clamshell design was one solution, but it also made the phone bulkier and less pocketable. The Razr project aimed to revolutionize the clamshell design in the same way that the Apple iPod transformed portable music players. The phone was ready in 2004, at less than 14 millimeters thick. It was thinner than most bar phones even when folded. And when opened, it looked as thin as paper. But how did they achieve this level of thinness? First, the Razr ditched the headphone jack about 12 years before the iPhone 7, replacing it with mini USB for both headphones and power. Most of the backlit keys are housed on a single metal plate, with curved rubber strips that allow for key press recognition without looking. The antennas are housed in the phone's non-foldable chin. The small external display was made of glass instead of the usual plastic to help with rigidity. The rest of the case wasn't plastic either. It was made of aluminum, a material that was considered premium and uncommon at the time. After Frost decided to drop the O from the project name to stylize the product, the Motorola Razr V3 was released in November 2004 for $500, which was comparable to a modern flagship costing $800. People were so impressed by the beauty that they wanted it as a way to prove their coolness despite the high price. No one cared that the phone's insides were essentially identical to Motorola's previous clamshell models. It could play music and videos, but only had 5.5 megabytes of non-expandable storage. Thanks to its shape, the single 0.3 megapixels camera could even be used for selfies. As production ramped up, Motorola partnered with carriers to sell the phone for just $99 with a 2-year contract. Within months, it became the best-selling phone in the US, used by celebrities like David Beckham and Reese Witherspoon, and featured in countless movies and TV shows. The Razr V3X, released in early 2005, was essentially the Pro version, offering 3G, a dedicated selfie camera, better specs across the board, and a micro SD card slot. However, it was much thicker and heavier, resembling a more traditional clamshell phone. Later that year, the Razr V3i debuted as a successor to the V3, retaining the same sleek design while upgrading to a 1.2 megapixels camera and a replaceable micro SD card. Some carrier versions of the V3i were among the few Motorola phones to ship with iTunes, which quickly became the most popular way to buy music. This was, after all, the heyday of the iPod era. However, iTunes on Motorola phones was limited to 50 or 100 songs, depending on region, as Apple realized that a phone with full iTunes functionality could spell the end of dedicated music players. By 2006, the Motorola Razr was outselling the iPod, reaching 50 million units sold by July. Folding feature. Does it seem a bit exaggerated to use the word feature to refer to the folding of a device like the Motorola Razr V3? No, it was actually built to do this as a feature and do it as well as possible. There had been a few clamshell phones before, like the Nokia 9000, launched in 1996. But it wasn't until the Razr V3 that users got a real benefit from opening and closing the flap. It might have been as simple as opening or closing the flap to accept or reject a call. But at the time, all of these actions were considered fashionable. Advanced integrated technologies. It is known that the Razr V3 was planned to be made of high-end metal, not cheap metal, so Motorola had to research and re-implement all existing mobile phone technology to fit its new design. Besides the technology related to design, this product is also integrated with functional hardware such as VGA camera with 4x zoom capability, extremely sharp main display screen, global GSM band as well as Bluetooth connection, color versions. It can be said that this is a product that owns the most variations in color and pattern in the phone world. In addition to the usual elegant black color, users also witness the appearance of pink, red versions with different shades or blue, purple, yellow and green. As for us Vietnamese, we also really like the silver version. This can also be easily seen through the fact that the price of this color is always higher than other colors. The great inheritance and legacy left behind. In its era, the name Razr V3 is truly a hero in the eyes of many fans when it has the essence of its predecessors as well as the great advances of future technology. After so many years, although it is no longer on the throne, we still have to admit that this will always be a technological quintessence of humanity, where human breakthroughs and creativity for phones are opened and shaped in a new direction. There are even many hypotheses that, if the iPhone did not appear, our current smartphones would be flip devices. iPhone 3G, 2008, the smartphone that ushered in a new era of speed and applications. On July 11, 2008, Apple officially distributed the iPhone 3G in 22 countries with two memory versions of 8GB and 16GB. The 16GB version is available in two colors, black or white. It is sold at a recommended price of $199 for the 16GB version and $99 for the 8GB version. After claiming the position of best-selling smartphone in the US and second globally, the iPhone 3G continues to rise with the title, the best-selling phone of all time in the US, surpassing competitors such as Motorola Razr V3, BlackBerry Curve. iPhone 3G is the best-selling mobile phone in the United States. The iPhone 3G uses plastic material on the back with hard metal buttons. The device has a 3.5-inch screen, a headphone jack and especially the internet access speed via 3G is close to Wi-Fi speed, helping the product to be warmly praised. Another important selling point is affordability, which Apple also did very well. Although the original price was still very high, users could buy the iPhone 3G for $199 for the 8GB version thanks to the carrier subsidy program. At the same time, it was also sold immediately in 22 countries and then followed by more than 50 countries that same year. Next, the focus of the iPhone 3G was the second version of the iPhone software. Specifically, the Software Development Kit, SDK, gave third-party developers access to the iPhone for the first time to create compatible applications. Apple also heavily marketed the SDK to the enterprise market. New features for the software include contact search in the address book, not available on the original iPhone, and full support for both iWork and Microsoft Office. The ability to save images, support for several foreign languages, and parental controls were also added. The iPhone 3G was released a month after its launch, July 11, 2008, and received positive reviews. Wall Street Journal reporter Walt Mossberg commented that the device was newer, faster, cheaper. By December, having taken over many customers from Nokia, Research in Motion, BlackBerry, and Microsoft, the iPhone 3G had a 30% share of the US smartphone market. After Apple launched the iPhone 3GS a year later, the iPhone 3G was still sold but became Apple's low-cost phone. With the price cut by half from the original, the iPhone 3G cost $99 with a 2-year warranty at that time. Only came in black and had 8GB of memory, and came with the iPhone OS 3.0 software update. On June 7, 2010, the iPhone 3G was finally discontinued, and replaced by the 8GB iPhone 3GS, which retailed for $99 with a 2-year warranty. According to Apple, they sold 6.9 million iPhone 3G units in the first quarter, while iPhone 2G only sold 6.1 million in the first 5 quarters. Following the success of iPhone 3G, iPhone 3GS launched in 2009 also brought positive sales for Apple, and by early 2017, this model was still used in some countries. AT&T's exclusive distribution of iPhone also ended when Verizon sold iPhone 4 in 2011. A year later, iPhone 5 marked a new standard for iPhone with support for 4G LTE network. Samsung Galaxy S3, 2012. In 2012, when Nokia was still a force to be reckoned with and Apple was dominating the market, Google was releasing Ice Cream Sandwich, Android 4.0, to a handful of Android phones. and the Android market had just been renamed Google Play. 720p screens were the cutting edge. Quad-core processors were considered extremely powerful, and smartphones with 5.3-inch screens were called phablets. That same year, Samsung was making a meteoric rise in the mobile market, perfecting the strategy it had established 2 years earlier with the first Galaxy S phone. Samsung is building a flagship line to rival Apple, running Google's platform and App Store, offering the best specs, and being available in as many countries and on as many carriers as possible. Just like Nokia did, after the arrival of the Galaxy S and the incredible success of the Galaxy S2, which established Samsung as a contender to become a leader in the mobile market. The Galaxy S3 was met with huge expectations when it launched on May 29, 2012, 10 years ago. The basic portrait of the Galaxy S3 includes a white or dark blue shell, a 4.8-inch Super AMOLED screen with HD resolution of 1280 by 720 pixels, a 1.4 GHz Exynos quad-core chip, Android 4.0 operating system, 16 GB, 32 GB or 64 GB internal memory, supports Wi-Fi, DLNA, Wi-Fi Direct, Bluetooth 4.0, NFC, Micro USB 2.0 and uses a 2.100 mAh battery. Its smooth, rounded, pebble-like shape was controversial among users, some of whom still preferred the Galaxy S2's design. Its nature-inspired TouchWiz interface and wavy unlock animation were criticized for being clunky. But ultimately, it was a phone that many Samsung and Android fans enjoyed. The S3 had a larger, higher resolution screen, a faster processor and better GPU, NFC and Bluetooth 4.0, and it shipped with a more modern version of Android. The phone topped nearly every benchmark test at the time. For those who wanted to get more hands-on, rooting the Galaxy S3 and installing CyanogenMod was easy. The Galaxy S3 was a great phone for its time, but aside from the software flaws, the camera wasn't great either. Smartphone cameras weren't Samsung's forte at the time, and compared to Nokia's 40 megapixels Carl Zeiss lens and PureView technology, the 8 megapixels camera on the Galaxy S3 was a huge disappointment. Not just in megapixels, but in everything: resolution, detail, noise, color, processing, nothing was good. Despite the poor camera, Samsung shipped 30 million Galaxy S3s in less than 7 months, even outselling Apple's iPhone 4S in the third quarter of 2012. By the end of its life cycle, the S3 had sold over 70 million units worldwide, an impressive feat. However, the more impressive figure is that Samsung started 2012 with 14.84% market share and ended the year with 22.94%, according to StatCounter, showing that the Galaxy S3 sparked a meteoric rise that would later propel it to the top spot. When launching the S3, Samsung included a rather catchy slogan for it, "Designed for humans." And Samsung was not exaggerating. The S3 really has quite smart, or humane, things, depending on how you call it. If you often read newspapers or surf the web on your smartphone, you must know the situation of dimming and turning off the screen when the battery-saving settings are maximized. It is inevitable to be annoyed because you are watching something, or sometimes you had to poke a bit to keep the screen on, or you turn off the saving settings. Samsung solves this annoyance by taking advantage of the secondary camera on the front of the screen. It will detect whether there is a user in front of the screen to always maintain the brightness of the screen. This simple but extremely useful feature is called Smart Stay. Activated in the display section, Settings. Using your voice to command your device is nothing new. Apple calls this feature Siri and Samsung calls it S-Voice. But that alone is nothing special. Samsung's innovation is that it allows you to use my language to talk to you. That is, instead of having to pronounce correctly for the device to understand. And this method is very tiring. The S3 allows you to use words that only you understand as passwords for the S3. That means you can use English, American, Somali, French, German, bird sounds, mouse sounds or any language you can think of to speak to the S3. The S3 will sample 3 to 5 times to remember your voice command. There are 8 functions on the S3 that you can use voice commands to activate. Unlock the device. Check missed calls. Check messages. Turn on the camera. Check appointments. Listen to music. Watch movies and record voice. Take pictures of friends and tag them. That's social networking. Quite a few new technology products now come with a facial recognition feature so you can tag people. I remember the first time I used this on Google's Picasa software. Samsung's S3 also applies the same thing and takes it even further. Social Tag will synchronize the tagged person's photo with the names in your contact list. As soon as you are viewing a photo and suddenly recognize a person you know, who has been tagged in the gallery, you can immediately call them or text or email them. Very humane. Information technology focus. iPhone 6 Fever, 2014. The iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus are a pair of smartphones designed, developed, and marketed by Apple Inc. It is the 8th generation of the iPhone, succeeding the iPhone 5S. Announced on September 9, 2014, and released to the market on September 19, 2014, the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus were initially met with positive reviews for their design, specifications, cameras, and improved battery life compared to previous iPhones. However, the design aspects of the duo were also criticized, with the antenna bands disrupting the seamlessness of the metal casing, and the iPhone 6's screen resolution being lower than many other devices in the same segment. Pre-orders for the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus reached a record of more than 4 million in the first 24 hours. 10 million iPhone 6 and 6 Plus devices were sold in the first 3 days of official sales, marking another Apple record. Over their lifetime, the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus have sold a total of more than 220 million units, making them the best-selling iPhone models in history and consistently ranked among the most successful phones of all time. At launch, the iPhone 6 was available in 3 colors: silver, space gray, and gold. It was released in 3 storage capacities: 16 GB, 64 GB, and 128 GB. The price of the iPhone 6 when it was first released in the US was $199 for the 16 GB version, $299 for the 64 GB version, and $399 for the 128 GB version. Beautiful design. One of the highlights of the iPhone 6 compared to the iPhone 5s is its more beautiful and sophisticated design. The iPhone 6 has a larger screen, with thinner bezels and soft rounded corners, creating a more seamless and luxurious feel when held in the hand. In addition, the iPhone 6 also has a monolithic design, without prominent cuts, creating a more uniform and aesthetic shape. Sharp screen. The iPhone 6 has a display with a usable area, a feature that debuted with iOS 8. Although the iPhone 6's display is 4.7 inches, thanks to the usable area and software optimization, the content on the screen is still displayed effectively. This makes the viewing experience on the iPhone 6 not inferior to Android smartphones with 5-inch or 5.2-inch screens. Machine capacity. The iPhone 6 has been given a larger storage option by Apple with a capacity of 128 GB. This allows users to store more files, applications, photos, videos and personal data without having to worry about storage space limitations. Camera and performance. The iPhone 6 is equipped with an 8-megapixels iSight camera with many improvements over previous versions. Larger pixel capacity and better f/2.2 aperture help the camera capture light well and create sharp images, especially in low light conditions. Focus pixel technology also helps increase the ability to focus faster and more accurately, helping users take high-quality photos and create artistic effects. Although the iPhone 6 does not have the same performance as later iPhone models such as the iPhone 7, iPhone 8, or iPhone X, it can still operate smoothly and meet all common user needs when used properly. Battery life. The iPhone 5 and 5s have suffered from a lack of battery life compared to their Android rivals. Therefore, users had high expectations for the new version. But the battery life of the iPhone 6 is only modest at 1,810 mAh. This is not considered impressive when compared to Android phones with larger battery capacities at the same time, such as the HTC One M8, 2,600 mAh. Galaxy S5, 2800 mAh, or Sony Xperia Z3, 3100 mAh. Software. The iPhone 6 still has stable and smooth performance despite not having a high configuration like some other Android phones. This is thanks to Apple's software optimization on the iOS operating system. Although the iPhone 6 only has 1 GB of RAM, iOS is still optimized to work well on the device. The iOS operating system manages resources effectively and has good multitasking capabilities, allowing users to open multiple applications and tabs on the Safari browser while still maintaining smooth performance. About processing power. The iPhone 6 can handle heavy tasks like video cutting and editing, filters, and slow down segments quickly. iPhone 6 still has stable performance even though it does not have a high configuration like other Android phone models. The original iPhone 6 running iOS 8 could have some issues like apps crashing and not being optimized for screen resolution. However, through software updates, Apple has fixed these issues and improved performance on the iPhone 6. With the upgrade to iOS 10, and especially version 10.3.3, iPhone 6 has received significant improvements in performance and stability. Therefore, you can rest assured to use your old iPhone 6 on iOS 10.3.3 without encountering the above problems. Thank you for watching the whole video. Don't forget to click the subscribe button to receive the earliest video. You can watch more videos on the right or left side of the screen. I will leave many offers below in the comments and video description.